being a punk? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Cool. So what's up, everybody? Hey, it's Graham. I'm in Hanoi with comedian Dominik Vu. And you took us to a very authentic...
Yeah.
Like we're sitting on these little tables.
Yeah.
And you can kind of... Yeah, this is a super, super local place. So tell me... I like getting everybody's sort of backstory, like where are you from, what brought you here, how long you've been here, all that stuff.
I'm originally from the Czech Republic. That's where I was born and raised. My mom's Czech, and then my dad's Vietnamese. He came there for like a study exchange program. Mm-hmm. And then my mom saw him at the party or like at the event, and she was like, "This is the first handsome Vietnamese guy I've ever seen." And then I can't complain about that, you know.
Did you then grow up speaking Vietnamese?
Never, actually, because they my parents divorced when I was like 3. Oh. So my dad never actually like taught us. He taught us how to swear, and that's it.
Did you live with your mom or your dad after the divorce?
It was like kind of back and forth, but mostly with my. But at some point we just stayed with my mom.
Can we just drink this, by the way?
No, you're gonna dip thing.
Oh, there's a dip thing.
Yeah, but you can drink. I mean, like you could.
I guess you could just drink hot sauce too if you really wanted to.
Yeah, all these. And you eat the chopsticks, actually.
You can eat them, you can jam them in your face, whatever you want. There's really no rules. But I'm sorry, who are you living with?
I was living with my mom mostly, and that's the reason why I moved here in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Because deep down I always felt like I kind of owe it to myself, like I'm half Vietnamese, and then I get shit for it. When you grow up in Europe, and
really?
you look different. Like when you grow up in that part of Europe, you kind of get shit.
What makes Eastern Europe just because everybody's so like white and?
It's ethnic homogeneity.
Yeah.
Like the more people look the same and do the same shit, they're gonna be less. I would still say that the racism isn't too bad. I still had like a very nice experience growing up, but there are moments when you feel that you don't belong and you're different.
Cool. What's this?
This is just stir-fried veggies.
It's cool.
Because you don't eat meat, so I had to order some boring food.
I forgot to tell him when we sat down, I go, I don't eat meat. He's like, what? I know this is a very meat-heavy country. But
could you pass me one of those limes? I'm gonna teach you a survival skill. One of those kumquats.
This one?
Okay.
Thank you.
So before you eat, you're gonna have to wash this with this because it kills bacteria.
Is that drinks?
Yes, that drinks.
Wow, I didn't notice that.
So you gotta kind of clean it up.
This is why they put limes on the beers in Latin America. You put it around. That's
really?
The same thing. You put the lime around the mouth of the bottle so you can drink out of it. So just in case it's.
I bet it might be the flavor too, though. Right?
The flavor absolutely does help the flavor, but I think it originated for this very reason, of this sort of like.
Yeah.
All natural disinfectant.
Yeah. Well, now you like this stops you from spending your precious time in the bathroom, you know.
Oh, dude, I got hit hard.
Thing. Whoever invented this?
I got hit hard with food poisoning in the Philippines 3 weeks ago. Like hard. Like go to the clinic kind of hard.
Oh.
That was gnarly.
At least in the Philippines you could afford it, unlike back home.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
I mean, no, there's plenty to criticize America about. But yeah, I understand being the outsider thing. From when I was a little kid, we lived in Germany.
Yeah.
My father had a Fulbright, and it was in the 70s, so it was only 30 years after the war. They did not like us. A lot of Germans were really mad that they lost.
Yeah.
They weren't like, oh, we're sorry.
Yeah.
They were like,
but are they really?
Yeah. They were just pissed off they lost. And, you know, I had to deal with that and the kids wanted to fight me and all this stuff. It was brutal. I didn't realize it at the time, but I look back historically and I go, well, their dads fought Americans. I mean, an American probably killed one of their family members.
Yeah.
You know? And the teachers were these old German women, and they were mean as shit, but maybe some American soldier came in and took their way with them. I mean, Americans are viewed as the big heroes from that war, but it was still a war. The American soldiers did awful shit.
Back then, you know, like, you need time to, a society needs time to go back and reflect on what happened. So, yeah, there was definitely some animosity that could have been. But, so I was born in the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
It's not too, it's a small, it's a normal sized country. And then there's a lot of Vietnamese people there. So, and then,
Is it because they came there after the war with America? Is that why?
No. So they would mostly go to Western Europe or to Australia or to the States or Canada. So we had mostly Northerners, and they were either workers or students. So and that's how my dad got there. But so growing up, like you don't get like constant shit, but every once in a while there's something that happens that you're like, okay, this is interesting. Like this is new experience.
Right.
But most of the time, like the people are like, you know, they just treat you as one of their own. But those little instances they accumulate, and then I was like, okay, I probably owe it to myself to go to Vietnam and actually kind of reconnect with that part of my identity and learn the language, because my dad did a horrible job teaching me Vietnamese.
So you didn't really know any Vietnamese until you moved here?
I would say that I knew how to put a sentence together. It was not a good sentence, but I knew how to say, like, I want coffee.
Right.
Yeah, but that's about that.
So you just drank a lot of coffee.
Just like
Nothing but coffee the first year. And so then did you...
You're gonna get that.
Oh, I love that.
Bánh trong đấy.
That's like fried prawns or something.
Yeah, that's like prawn cake.
Prawn cake. Sweet.
It's one of the Hanoi's things, because these are like lake prawns or like river.
Okay.
Yeah, these are not like
Ocean prawns.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I was noticing when I was in Ho Chi Minh City, everyone was saying, like, when you go to Hanoi, get northern cuisine, because all of the people that immigrated to America
are Southerners. Yeah.
So all we have is like pho. Like that's what you have as Vietnamese food, which is good. I like it, but everyone was like, oh, there's so much more to it than. They were like, you really need to try this. So that's why I was excited to have you.
Yeah, so I didn't know that you were a vegetarian. You know.
It's all good, brother.
I know, we wouldn't really hang out though.
I like springing it on people.
No, but now like, because like I could have chosen like a much better place, but...
It's one of the reasons I didn't tell you.
Okay.
Because I've gone to a lot of vegan places, and it's great, and I love showing vegan food around the world. But I kind of wanted to, just see, can I make this, spring it on you, and just like...
Yeah, and you see, this is like a local...
Well,
this is the real stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I love coming here and we have this tree, and the vibe's so nice.
I just dig it, man. We're just on the street, and we're the only ones speaking English.
I would go with the guava juice.
Yeah?
I would mix guava and pineapple. It's a good combo.
What kind of local soft drinks do they have that are crazy? I like a local soft drink.
They would have some oversweet like teas. Like I feel like Vietnam's like sugar.
Oh yeah, I'm noticing that.
Sugar tolerance is way too high.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. I know there's a lot of sugar in a lot of stuff.
It's like they're like challenge themselves. They were like, I bet if we try hard enough, we can make even these people fat. Like they're like, what?
Another
Like Vietnamese are always skinny, and they're like, well, hold my beer.
America's like, we lost the war, but we're gonna make you fat. That's what we're gonna.
No, there's Vietnamese doing that to themselves.
Oh.
Like you can buy sweetened milk here. I've never seen sweetened milk in a store ever.
Wow.
And here it's very difficult to find like milk or even yogurt. They're just plain yogurt.
I've noticed that, and I was also noticing like I'm not really a coffee drinker, so I like tea. I like iced tea, and it's almost impossible to find unsweetened iced tea here.
Here you have to go to places like that. Oh, if you like iced tea, I'm gonna get you the cha chanh, cha chanh. So I'm gonna get you the trà công quất.
Okay.
Mình gọi đồ uống ở đâu? Chị ơi. So let's get the công quất tea.
Soup, sweet.
Hai trà quất. Ít đường được.
Okay, thank you.
And this is crab
Oh, sweet.
crab cake.
Let's look at that. This is like a crab cake. And this sort of spicy soup stuff that I was just going to drink straight is really good.
It's a nice, but you can dip it into the chili sauce actually.
Oh wow, that's good. I love that chili sauce. So, getting back to you moving here, and you really wanted to embrace this part of your
Yeah.
heritage, your culture.
Yeah.
Did you then say, all right, and like start, did you go to a school, or how did you start studying the language?
So I was here, I found an internship in Hanoi, and that was kind of my excuse to go to Vietnam. I mean, at that time, I was like, okay, I'm figuring out the future, so I'm gonna do this internship. But looking back at it, I was just really happy to be in Vietnam. And since the day I landed, I started taking classes. I found like a tutor, and at one point I was taking 5 classes a week.
Wow, just immersing yourself and then forcing yourself to, you have to speak every day, because the thing about this country, like the Philippines, a lot of people speak English. Thailand, it's
Yes.
kind of.
Yes,
this
it's
is
about
not-
who colonized you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Vietnam didn't have the British. Luckily, I don't know. Who would you rather have as a colonizer, French or English?
Oh man,
You could choose your colonizer. Who would you choose?
I choose France.
Okay,
Because at least you're going to get good food and.
yeah. That's where banh mi came from.
Yeah.
So I was taking all these lessons and then just talking to people, figuring things out. Living here is important. Like if you live here, you start conversations with people. You're gonna have social interactions. You're gonna use Vietnamese to go about your day. And that's how I learned. But so I was here about 1 month when COVID happened. But that's when I started actually, taking all these classes and everything.
Oh. Now I heard the first year of COVID, this country locked down and it was pretty open. I mean, like they closed the borders, so there wasn't a lot of COVID cases.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it.
If you were here, you were living like a pretty decent, pretty normal life. You could travel everywhere, but we didn't know that. So when the COVID started, my embassy approached me and they were like, "We can get you on the flight for free and bring you back to the Czech Republic because that's what's happening. Like you're getting people. The country was getting people in different parts of the world on repatriation flights." But I was like, no, thank you. I feel like I'm good here. It just felt like it wasn't the time to go. And my dad lives in Saigon. I have a little brother and a sister. And part of the reasons why I decided to stay.
Are they half brothers or sisters? Or they're.
Yes. Technically, yes. But in my family, we don't really,
Right, everyone's a brother and
Yeah.
sister. Yeah, I got it. That's cool.
So, and they're about 11 years younger than I am. So I really wanted to spend time here to build that relationship while I can, because I feel like it's difficult to build a relationship with people when they're like in their 20s. They're already made humans,
Yeah. Did you have a decent relationship with your dad before moving here, or is part of the reason moving
No,
here?
quite decent actually. We don't know, no bad blood. We're both like very reasonable human beings, you know. So we had quite a nice relationship.
Thank you.
actually. I wouldn't say we were close. Luôn nhá. I wouldn't say we were
pair?
close. No, it's okay.
Sure. Also, the drink lady is separate.
Yeah. It's a symbiosis, you know. Oh, you have a restaurant? Okay, I'm gonna be making juice, you know. They have-
Cool.
Yeah.
And what did we get here? What is this?
This is a kumquat tea. I asked for less sugar.
Có trà đá với nước ngô gì không?
If you want it, this is from. Em ơi bên này nhá. Cảm
Oh,
ơn.
that's good.
I asked for less sugar because I feel like even with less sugar, they still put
Oh, yeah.
they
It's
still
still
put
kind
a
of
lot
sweet.
of sugar, right? This is for me, man. I just.
Do what you got to do, brother. I don't want. I always say I don't want to force my hippie lifestyle on anybody. You need
Like this is their signature dish.
that.
This is what everybody comes here for.
Okay, and what is it basically? What's in there?
So this is the pho base. You know the pho noodles? It's the same shape. They just flatten it, and then they use to roll things in it.
And you can put whatever,
Yeah.
anywhere, vegetables, meat, spices, or whatever.
Vegetables, meat. You don't roll it yourself. They roll it for you. So it already comes with done, and then you just dip it here, and it's
Okay.
done.
Okay, cool. So then you're here. You're connecting with your dad and your younger brothers and sisters, and
That's 2020, and then
are they? Do they not speak much English, or you have to communicate with them?
my dad did a really great job making us understand and making them understand the bond. So like they grew up speaking pretty good English, so that they can talk to us.
That's great. Boy, I give your dad credit for that.
That's a masterpiece, you know. Not a lot of people would be able to do that.
That's exceptional parenting. You know, to realize.
I mean, at least somebody got that, you know.
Yeah, I didn't.
You know, like he must have realized that at some point, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's
Maybe
it's exceptional parenting. I agree.
Sorry.
There's this little story. So I would come here once every 2 years. After I was 18, I started coming to Vietnam for vacation. My sister, she could have been 5. We're at the swimming pool together. She's there with me, and she runs into her elementary school friend when she was like 5, 6, and the elementary school was like, "Who is this white person with you?" And she was like 5, 6, and she was like, "Oh, it's my brother." And her elementary school friend was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's my brother." But like you could see, like in her reality, like I'm her brother, and she never really thought about.
Never questioned it.
Yeah.
Never thought it would be
Yeah.
weird for anybody.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then she was like, "Why doesn't he speak Vietnamese?" And he was like, "Oh, he doesn't live here." And the friend, she was like, "What?" So like he did that. So we spoke English together, but I felt like I should probably learn Vietnamese when I was 25. So I stayed here.
And so then you just immersed yourself. You're studying it. So how quickly did it kind of get? I'm sure there's not like a day where it just like, oh, I get it. You just slowly sort of.
Yeah. And it takes way more time than any other language. Because for us, European speaking people, you know, coming from like European languages, Vietnamese is one of the more difficult and challenging languages to absorb, to learn. It's easier than Japanese because the writing is the same, for example. But it's similar. It's such a different language that if you took the time that I spent on Vietnamese and if I invested in Spanish, Italian, French, you know, other languages,
You could write-
You could write a book.
Yeah. And translate a book. And
Yes.
read, yeah.
Yes.
But in all that time and effort you put in, you're just at conversational, or Where would you put it? Could you read a book? Could you watch a Vietnamese movie? Could you?
I could watch a movie for sure. And I have. And I read, but I don't read like books like novels. I can read the leaflet.
Right. You could read like the newspaper or something like that.
I could. Newspaper would use a very different vocabulary than I know.
Really?
Newspaper would be like very
Formal?
formal.
Oh, and you know more conversational.
Yes, yes. So I would probably read like a leaflet about the hotel, you know, or like leaflet about an ad.
Tour guide.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
yeah. I could. Yeah, so I could read that. You know, like when you're flying somewhere, there's always like the magazine. Yeah.
You could read that.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. That's cool. Because those are interesting. There's always. And then, did you start doing stand-up here or in the Czech?
I started 2019. My very first open mic was 2018. So I started in Czech. Then I transitioned into English. And was doing simultaneously. And
Czech and English shows.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's how you learn the most. Because in Prague, like, you would do 2 shows a week in Czech. Right? Which is not bad when you're starting. But sometimes I would do like 1 mic in Czech, and then we would go across the city to do like a English mic.
How was that? Man, that's fascinating. How did that influence your joke writing? Because I would imagine there's certain stuff that the Czech audience won't get, and the English audience, you know, like there's cultural stuff.
I would say if you're doing like if you're doing an English show abroad, it's always going to be different because you don't have the homogeneous.
Right, everyone's from somewhere
Everyone's
else.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
So your reference points, you have to be careful about what you're referencing, about your topics. And then I feel like that's how you learn good comedy quickly, because you cannot just use generic references to funny people. Like 9/11 will be funny universally, right?
Well,
Right.
as an event, maybe not, but yeah, a reference to it, sure.
But talking about like one specific pop culture figure can fall flat very, very easily.
Right, unless it's somebody like George Clooney, but if
Yeah,
it's some
yeah.
sort of mid-level
That
famous.
was a very boomer reference.
I know, very bummer.
Like you want like someone famous universally, and the first thing you think about is George Clooney. Let's do a poll here. Like how many of these people
Would know who George Clooney is. But that's also on a separate topic. That's social media and everything has changed.
Celebrities, yeah.
To now it's like a young person in their 20s is not, you know, when I was in my 20s, I'm not a boomer, I'm Gen X, but when I was in my 20s, there wasn't the internet. So there was, these are the big movies that come out.
Yeah.
You know who that is. These are the big TV shows. You know who they are. And these are the big athletes. And that's it. And now it's like, there's people on TikTok or YouTube with millions of followers that you've never heard of, but they have a global reach or whatever. And that's what's changed about that. But anyway, yeah, I hear your point. I've noticed that just from doing international shows, there's certain jokes that I'm like, this won't work in front of an international crowd.
Yeah. And then it just makes you more on your toes. You know, and then also like, so pretty quickly when I started doing both in Czech and in English, I would go to another country in Europe. I would go to Berlin. If I could, you know, I would go to Berlin just to see. Because if you're doing comedy in your own little backyard, you quickly get feeling, you start getting giggles and you're like, oh my God, I'm so good at this. And then you're like, no, you're not. You're doing it with 7 other people. So you're kind of the one eye leading the blind. But then immediately you switch to English, you see somebody and they're like, oh, okay, this is good, this is very good. Especially if you start stand-up in a not English speaking environment.
Right.
You even have like wrong conceptions and understanding of what stand-up is and what it should be. So that I just valued that. I'm lucky enough to speak English and to be able to, transition. I did 2 shows in Vietnamese.
I was just about to ask you that. And what was that like?
It was like I felt like I skipped steps. If you feel like you go from ordering food to telling jokes, I feel like there's like 7 years of development that I skipped. So I felt I enjoyed the experience because I was like, yeah, I can tell my grandchildren, one day, whatever.
But it was was it challenging?
It was so fucking challenging.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're on the stage, like it's not oh, I'm doing my craft. You go from I'm here doing my craft and I have confidence that whatever goes my way, I can react to it. And suddenly you go to I'm like a record. Because you have to memorize every single thing. Because your language is not developed enough to be just
Right.
you go from these are the jokes that I want to tell, but how I get there, it's not going to be crafted word by word, right? But suddenly you go, these are the punchlines that I have, but these are the setups that I have, and I have to pronounce this exactly this way because if I mispronounce it, nobody will understand.
Wow.
So it was very, your brain is going like overtime.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I speak a little Portuguese and a little Spanish, but
Nice.
I've never done shows. I wouldn't feel confident enough to, I know how to just get around. If I'm in Latin America, I can order food and someone will rattle off a bunch of stuff to me and I'll hear like every third word and kind of go, I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
But constructing jokes and the amount of effort it takes to put the words in the exact right order to get the laugh, boy, that would...
Especially with the tone of language. Even if you say the right word but you mispronounce the tone, it has a different meaning.
Yeah. I know. And then there's all the cultural stuff, that you... I mean, it's just hard to figure out. I mean, the cultural stuff is a whole nother animal, I would say.
That I would say is one thing that makes it easier because everybody in the audience will understand the same cultural references.
Right.
Suddenly you go from performing for a mixed crowd to a very
Oh, right. So you could just make a reference that every Vietnamese person would get.
Yes.
Or every Czech person or whatever would get.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that requires you to know the culture. So it's like, it's easy in some ways. But
Provided you're fluent enough and you know the culture.
yes.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's so fascinating, man.
I don't know.
So then,
It was just a fun side quest.
that's so cool. So how do you... Now you're starting to, build up a little scene here. How many, international, headliners like me have come through and... how is that usually received?
So there are multiple people around the country that just love comedy and they wanna keep doing it. So there used to be quite a nice scene before then COVID happened, etc. So there's a standing bar, Dan Dockery doing great work. His schedule and capacity allows him to do maybe 1 to 2 shows a month.
Okay.
Right? So that's not a lot. So all the open mics, everything else, we have to do ourselves.
Okay.
Any other international comic touring, we have to find the venue ourselves, and then I usually end up doing a lot of that.
Okay.
But it's just because if I don't do it, then kind of nobody else will do it.
Doesn't happen, right?
And so when you reached out, I was like, yeah, I can. And so the venue where we're going to be performing, it's they've been around for a long time, but stand-up they already started having recently.
Oh, so they don't? Do they do like live music or?
They have live music. There's a wedding there. They have like a nice location. They have a nice interior. And recently I started. So you're the second. You would be like the fourth show there, fifth show there, but second international headliner. The first one I did with my friend Ashwin from India, and then we had a pretty nice turnout. And even today we have like over 36 tickets sold already.
And what typically do you do? What are the turnouts?
So last show we did there was about 40 people in total, which for Vietnam is good because we're performing in English.
Yeah.
You know, so there's already
Limited.
That's already a filter.
Yeah.
And then we're performing in the expat area, and then the ticket costs 10 to 15 bucks, which already is another filter.
Right. Right.
Because if you're making 500 bucks a month, you're not gonna.
No.
You're not gonna see Graham, you know.
No.
Or Dominik.
And then have you toured around and done other shows in Vietnam?
I've done, just like before, I still keep the same mindset, especially over the last 2 years, I keep like, I decided that that's what I'm just gonna do. So like this is my last year in Vietnam and I'm moving back to Europe to do more comedy, and just do comedy.
Oh, wow.
Ancestors, if you guys hear me, please.
So then I'm assuming you're not, like, do you have a partner here? Or?
No, I'm good. I'm free to go. I have a job, I have a dad, I have a sister here. My little brother, this year, he just moved to Germany for university. So at this point I'm like the chapter, whatever I came to do here is done. But I gotta now focus on myself.
That's cool, man. And so then the goal is to go back to Prague or where?
I'll start with Prague because it's very close to Berlin. And over the last 3 years, European comedy scene has gone up.
Yeah.
But in the region, I've performed in Taiwan twice. I've done Hong Kong. Did a couple shows in Hong Kong. It's not like I'm the headliner, you know, but I don't really care that much. I've done one open mic in San Francisco actually when I was there in 2019. So like I always, whenever I travel, I've done Singapore. So yes, like I do have friends in the region. I've done Saigon, and then what I love about this region and the comedy here, it's like a community.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's not everywhere that you would vibe with people and you would just genuinely try to grow together, because comedy is a game of egos or dicks, but you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of, yeah.
But here it's like, you guys want to write, and my friend from Taiwan will join. My friend from Singapore will join, and we have a writing session.
Wow, that's really cool, man.
And we have a writing session, bi-weekly. And there's one guy from Saigon, two guys from Saigon, there's me, there's blah, 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 there's blah, blah, blah.
Wow, that's really cool, man.
Hopefully, April, I'm gonna go to Melbourne. Just to do spots. Not my own show, because I don't. At this point, you need like stage, you need like social media presence, you need like, you need reviews, and I don't have that, and I'm fine with that. So I'm just gonna go and do. Like, so for example, until last year, I would always say, oh, I do comedy, but I would never say I'm a comedian. And after last year, I was like, no, actually, like, I'm a comedian. And if I don't just like try and do it as much as I can, I will probably like kill myself. You know, like 5 years from now, when you're like old, you're like, what? I used to be pretty funny back in the days.
It is one of the most insane professions, and to make your living is really challenging, but when you make that commitment, like, this is who I am. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 18.
Yeah.
But
back then, the way you make it
it was 100% different.
Yeah. You go.
There's good and bad though.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, the way you made it was different, but there was all these gatekeepers.
Yeah. It was very much streamlined.
Very streamlined. You had to go through these people. They had to approve you. Now you have a little more control in that. If you build up an online following, and that helps you sell tickets, then you win. I mean, but it's turning to, and I had a conversation with a comedian in Singapore about this. It's turning a lot of comedians into influencers, not comedians.
Yeah.
And they just want to do their.
It's marketing.
Yeah, and their crowd work clips do well on Instagram or whatever.
That's the only clip they can do well because you're not burning material. Once you take like a really well-crafted joke that you spend 7 months crafting and you put it on Instagram, well, that's it.
Yeah.
You're not telling that joke again.
And the problem is with the younger comics that I'm seeing is to learn how to riff and improvise with the crowd, you have to learn how to write jokes. You're writing on the fly. And I see like younger comics and they want to just go right to crowd work without learning joke structure and callbacks and all that stuff to where you can, you watch somebody like Ian Bagg. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a really good comic that I've known for years. Mm-hmm. He's excellent at crowd work and he's writing a story. He's writing an act with the crowd as it's happening. He's not just going, oh, are you going to fuck that girl later? Like saying this stupid shit. And it's like, and a lot of young comics don't see that. They don't see that. They don't see that.
But I'd like to say that I'm a young comic. I've been doing comedy so I started 2019. So this is my 6th year. There was COVID, so for 2 years I did fuck all. And and I don't get a lot of stage time here. You can't get a lot of stage time here. Because if I do 4 or 5 shows a month, it's a good month.
Wow.
But 3 of those shows will be attended by 7 audience members on a good day, and you have to bring 3.
Wow.
But like I have quite a few good friends here, so like that's why it's easier for me to put out shows, to organize the show, because if I put out show, then I can reach out to all these people, and they're like, okay, I will show up. Right. Thank you. So, but I agree. Like, we all have to suddenly make the change to. It's not just that you're good at your craft, but at the same time you spend time creating content. Yeah. And then I'm very bad, and I need to be honest with myself. I'm very inconsistent, and I'm very bad at that.
Well, the issue is having traveled all over the world and even to smaller towns in the U.S. and stuff. There's a great thing about small comedy scenes, like you said. It's very your guys helping each other out. It's not as like cutthroat, but there is a ceiling. And in order to make your living as a comic, you have to live somewhere where there's a bunch of paid work that's right available to you, and that's where it's tough in foreign countries like this because. Like if I lived in Asia, it'd be a little easier because I could just go headline all of these countries around Asia and probably go out 1 week. Like if I lived in let's say Da Nang or Bangkok or something, probably once a month I could go headline all of the places around Asia and do okay.
But you don't want to be the best. If you're in a scene, and Nate Bargatze said that in one of the interviews. He was like, if you're in a scene and you go to these shows and you notice that you're kind of like giving advice to others and you're kind of like, you're the best performing comic, you need to move.
Yeah, there's no 2 ways about it. And that's like when I moved to LA a long time ago. I started doing stand-up in Tucson, Arizona, which is a college town. And I became one of the better comics in Tucson.
Yeah.
Then I moved back to Chicago where I'm from.
That's not a bad scene though.
Well, it was great. It still is a great scene. Chicago's always been a great scene. And when I was there, it was like there was 12 full-time comedy clubs, and you could fill your calendar. I mean, I waited tables for maybe a year, and then I was 22 years old, I was a full-time comic.
Nice.
But there was so many, but it was really competitive, and you saw really good comics.
But like competition
makes you better.
Is what makes you better.
Yes, for sure. It's like sports. It's like anything. Like if you're only playing against, in whatever sport, against okay guys in a small town, And when you're watching really good comics, like when I was in my early 20s and I was in Chicago, I was watching these guys that were a little older than me, 5, 10, 15, or 20 years older than me, and they were pros.
Yeah.
I mean, and it wasn't just they had a funny act, how they conducted themselves professionally.
Yeah. Yeah. You show up on time.
Yeah, and they weren't. They were like, don't get in the way of the bar, the waiters and waitresses, because that's how the club makes its money. Don't call, don't. They were really like smart, and you saw the guys that were like alcoholics, and you saw that there were problems, and you knew that was going to implode. And it did make you better. And then when I moved to LA, same thing. The competition was even more fierce because now you're watching really good people, but also you're seeing fame, which is its own animal. And the most famous person isn't always the best, most talented, funniest person.
No, it's the other way around, because I feel like you ever like a comic and then they make it and then you're like, I don't like you anymore. Yeah, and then so I feel like if you're famous, you get the privilege of having audiences come to see you specifically.
Yeah.
And that already is not an honest feedback, because they kind of are already in the mindset, oh, I like this guy is funny.
Yeah.
And I paid good money to be here.
Bill Burr said it's like always playing a home game.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is then when a new special comes out, you have to write so much, because that's the other side of it. If you don't have that big of a following, and every time you're going to you're headlining a new club and 80% of the audience doesn't know you, you can keep doing some material, right? But when you're famous, everyone in that theater has seen all of your specials. So when the new special comes out, you have to start writing a new hour immediately. I mean, you have to go on the road.
I mean, you probably already have a lot written by the time you tape the special.
Right.
You're already touring. Before you tape the special, you're already touring, and you're already putting in all these new...
And the jokes that don't make the special, you set those aside for the next one.
Yeah. And there's some comics that are like, once they really make it, then they have to go and sit back, because they've just been on the road, and they actually don't have real life experience to write jokes about. Yeah. Because all their life experience is eating, before the show.
Being stuck at an airport or whatever, and that you can only do so many of those. Yeah, you have to then. Yeah, it's a. Because the thing is, Chris Rock said this: if you're a stand-up comic and you have a big special come out, and people come see you, and you do most of that special, they'll like you, they'll have a good time, but they probably won't ever see you again, or they'll go, oh, because I've seen his act. He said, but if you have a new special come out, and then people come see you, and you do a whole new hour, then people are like, this guy, I'm going to see him every time he comes through town.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of writing, and then you have to be going up, and you have to be living in a city where you can get on stage almost every night.
Yeah.
And it's
or twice a night.
Yeah.
Are you still doing multiple shows a night if you're in LA?
LA it's not as easy to do that in LA. In New York City you can.
In LA you can't?
You can.
Because it's spread out?
It's spread out, and there's a lot of comedy. I mean, you can if you want to do open mics, which it's okay. I mean, it's like stage time is a harder thing to get in LA than New York.
You have to pay 5 minutes?
If you're new, yeah.
Okay.
If you're a little more established, but then again, the Comedy Store has Bill Burr and Mark Maron, and that's who's performing there.
Yeah.
And I know those guys. I've been doing comedy as long as them. But my name doesn't have the pull that they do.
Yeah.
I mean, in LA, you're going up against the biggest names.
Yeah.
So stage time is a little harder to get.
Nice.
But then it's also the epicenter of all of it. But so then the goal is you're going to go to Prague, and you're going to just
use it, because in Prague I can do comedy in Czech, so I already have income, because doing comedy in Czech, that's where the audience is, and so you already have some sort of income. You can already make money.
Is there any way to make money in Prague, let's say, as an actor in Czech or doing TV and?
I feel like these days there's so many opportunities, and I still haven't like tapped into that, and I haven't done my research about. My dad asked me the other day. He was like, "What you gonna do when you get back? Like, what's your job gonna be?" And I was like I'm gonna do anything that allows me to be on the stage in the evening. And he was like you could hear like a minute of silence.
that father, like, oh no.
He was like, and then he was like, "But you're gonna be 30 soon." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like I don't, you know." Like those benchmarks that like by a certain age you have to establish this. Like I feel like it does not apply anymore.
No.
It would apply if you had social mobility and buying power as you had in the 80s, right? Where you could just have a family.
Dude, let me tell you something too. I read this thing the other day and it's so true. You're gonna have to completely reinvent yourself a couple of times in your life.
Yep.
Something's gonna happen, whether you're a comic or not. You're gonna lose your job, you're gonna go through a divorce, or there's like, something's gonna happen,
Yeah.
like COVID or something, and
Yeah.
your whole industry gets wiped out,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that.
What
And
did you do during COVID?
Well, I had a YouTube show. I still have it, but I don't do it as much anymore. And I was very fortunate. I just started live streaming 5 days a week on YouTube, and I was making. So I lost all my tour dates, but my road income at the time was about 30% of my income, and YouTube and all of that ancillary revenue streams from YouTube was how I was making my living. The pandemic actually benefited me because everybody was stuck at home,
Yeah, that's nice.
and I was able to live in Hawaii for 2 years because I was making good money online.
Nice.
Yeah.
But so who was paying you? YouTube?
Well,
Directly?
you get some money from YouTube, and then I had a Patreon that was doing really well.
Okay.
And then I also had like an online store where I was selling merchandise.
Oh, okay.
And then
So you create like a community.
Yeah.
That's what they say, like that moving forward, there's like two things, like if you're doing business or whatever, like the technology and community.
Yeah.
Everything like will be community based.
Yes.
Much more. And if you can create community around the gym, around a coffee shop, around
anything. That's huge. And when you build an online community, you have a global community. I mean, so my YouTube channel is mainly talking about American politics. I'm independent. I don't like either party. And I was really, a lot of my viewers were like Bernie Sanders supporters and stuff like that. And so it was really great. But then I got censored hard. Because in America, if you're on either team, you're fine.
Yeah.
If all I did was say, "Oh, it's all Trump, blame everything on Trump,"
yeah.
I'd be fine. Or if I said, "Oh, everything's Biden," you're fine.
Yeah.
But when I was like, "The whole thing's corrupt, it's the war machine, America's an empire," like when you start saying that,
Yeah.
so then I lost all that revenue, and then, but I'm also a director and a producer, and you know, LA's in a crazy time. Anyway, if you want to make your living as a comic, do it.
Yeah.
Like, because you're gonna have to. I'm at my age now, kind of having to make a little bit of a pivot. Not like I'm leaving comedy to go open a shoe store or whatever.
Come on.
But you know, I'm like, one of the reasons I was coming through Asia, like, would I want to live here? Is there film and TV work I could do here? I've come to a conclusion that I'm going back to LA, and there's stuff happening there.
Just suck it up, man.
You know, I mean, that's I mean, it's still the epicenter of show business.
Yeah.
I mean, there's cool stuff happening all over the world.
Yeah.
But I'm really dialed in there, and I'm in the Producers Guild, and I'm like, and the fires that just happened, which were brutal, but there's this kind of energy to like,
Yeah.
we got to rebuild LA.
Yeah, resilience.
Yeah, we got to bring production back to Hollywood, and so my point is, oh man, I'm gonna be 30.
Nice.
You know what George Carlin said?
No, no.
In an interview, and if you watch the documentary that came out a couple years ago, at age 60, he said, "I think I'm just now finding my comedic voice." Age 60. He had already done like 15 or 20 specials. He reinvented himself like 5 times.
I think so.
Well, do it, man. Be the fucking best guy in Prague. Whatever.
Yeah. And then from there, like, so from Prague is in the middle of Europe. It takes 3 hours to get to Berlin. Amsterdam's 8 hours, you know.
Yeah.
Just hop on a flight.
You're close
Yeah.
to all of it. I mean, you're close to the UK. I mean, you can. It's all right
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
Why not, man?
But also, like, I don't, you know, like, with the day job, I'm not too worried about it. Also because like right now, if you're a comedian, you also have to be content creator.
Yeah.
Now, if you spend time writing jokes, or if you spend time going to shows and then staying up late, because that's what's bound to happen. Where do you get time to also do the back office part of the job?
Yeah.
Which is creating funny videos. And
posting them.
And editing them. And then, so you could outsource it. Somebody else can edit your videos, but it's a creative process. So you don't actually know what the results should be like. So you would just end up going back and forth. You're much better off doing it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Prague is one of the most visited cities in the entire world. So my friends have a comedy club, and they have 3 shows a night. They have 5 o'clock show, 6 o'clock show, 7 o'clock show, 9 o'clock show, sometimes even 10 o'clock show.
Wow.
Something like that.
Well, dude, I'd love to come to Prague and do shows. I've never
Yeah.
performed. I've never been there. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, cool, man. What before we wrap it up here?
They're about to kick us out.
They're gonna kick us
because
out. Yeah.
They're losing revenue.
Well, we're taking up space. They're sick of this fucking blogger shit. Like, get this fucking
No,
American.
this is the most like blogger-friendly country.
I'm noticing that. I'm seeing it.
People just film themselves doing completely like anything.
I know. Nobody's weirded out that I've been doing this, which is cool. So
Like there's old people addicted to TikTok. I've never seen like an old person watching TikTok until I came to Vietnam. And they're just there, you know, swipe the same thing you do.
that's fantastic. Well, where can people follow you online?
Dominik Vu Comedy. That's my Instagram. That's also my like webpage that I send out to bookers,
Cool.
to clubs. Dominik Vu Comedy. That's where I'm adding most of my funnies.
Cool. And if you're in Hanoi, check them out. And if you're going to be in Prague soon,
Yes, from the summer.
you're going to Prague in the summer.
From the summer onwards, yeah.
Nice.
I might do gigs around India and Indonesia before.
Sweet. Sweet.
If I'm here, might as well. You know?
Yeah, why not? Why not? You're in this part of the world. All right, folks. Thanks
Cheers.
for watching.